Jeremy Sochan, when Baylor signed their class of 2021, right?
Yeah.
Everyone thought, and most people thought, that Kendall Brown would be the highest drafted player. Obviously, there were still questions about what Matthew Meyer was going to do or whatever, but he was going to be, without question, a lottery pick. And then Jeremy Sochan would probably get somewhere late first round and could play his way up a little bit higher. Well, he damn sure did that. Number 9 overall. And to, I think, perfect fit. Popovich, Jeremy Sochan seemed like a perfect culture and type of player fit. Kendall eventually got drafted and traded to Indiana during the draft. And so good for him as well that he did get his damn name called, because I can imagine that started to get a little bit tenuous.
Yeah, I don't really remember what the draft thoughts were with Kendall and Jeremy. I don't know. I feel like Jeremy, being in Euroball and being kind of all around the world, he was looked at as somebody who had the same exact potential, if not a little bit higher. But I know Kendall, being a high school guy, being a highly rated guy, there was some thoughts. But yeah, I don't really remember what the difference was there. But I don't think it was a surprise when either one of them became one and dones, I guess, to your point. Jeremy Sochan did not have to wait long. Going to the Spurs, I think, is a great fit for them, or a great fit for him, I should say. And he seemed very happy. I think he would have been happy wherever he's picked, because he just got that kind of personality. But he seemed to really be enjoying himself last night, and that fly getup that he had on, was it lavender suit that he was wearing, and it was cool to see him doing the media rounds and laughing and just loving life. And then for Kendall Brown. I think you can kind of question his decision now, given how long he had to wait. I mean, he still was drafted, but there got to be a point in there where it was long enough into the draft that you thought, okay, he could potentially go undrafted, and that would have been a disaster. I mean, he still would have signed with the team and G League and all that, but, I mean, to potentially not gotten drafted after leaving after 1 year would have been really bad. So I'm glad that he got his name called. Certainly not nearly as highly as he or probably anybody wanted him to go. That's the risk that you run. So he had to know that when he got in. He was there in attendance, but he wasn't like front row in the green room and all that. So he was able to, come down and take the picture and do all that, which was cool. So glad he got picked. It would have been awful to see him, not have his name called.
I was glad it could have been anybody. It would have been fine, either one of them. But I'm glad that the Sochan to Popovich and Spurs, I know they've been down, but don't you think that was a great, not just because it's 9, but a landing spot for him?
I was on in San Antonio this morning talking about Jeremy, and I said, I did the top 5 the other day, and I thought the best fit for him was the Spurs. Because if you think about the kind of player he plays defense at all 5 positions. He's a developing offensive player, and we'll see how that shot develops in the NBA. But he also is brilliant. I mean, if one of the things I would describe about him is he is smart in many different aspects of his life. He's just a brilliant guy. He's a unique guy. Popovich is a brilliant guy. He likes other brilliant people to be around him. They're going to mesh well. Plus, he's the right kind of a jerk on the floor where he can get under people's skin and all that. And he's just very clever and does everything. He's very world aware, which fits with Pop as well. I just thought he was the Spursiest dude in the draft, and maybe the Spursiest guy they've gotten to draft in the last few years since the dynasty ended. Since Duncan and Parker and Ginobili and all those guys were gone, they haven't really had. If you look at who's come, they've got some guys that are kind of Spurs guys in the draft, but and of course Kawhi Leonard left. But he is a Spurs dude. He really is. I think it's a great fit. And for Kendall Brown, the one thing I would say the silver lining is between picks about 27 and 48, it's kind of just teams grabbing at things that they like, because sometimes they'll draft somebody and stash them for 3 years, depending on what they are. So
the Spurs used to be really good at that as well. But, so he goes to Indiana after being picked and then traded, and of course it can be confusing the way the NBA draft. They always seem like they add something a little bit later on. We talk about a guy's being interviewed about getting picked by, let's say, the Knicks, and then next thing you know, they're also reporting that he's been traded to Minnesota as well.
Next year we're going to do this, and the following year we're going to do this, and the following year we're going to do this, and I've done it like the last 5 years of you come in the day after the NBA draft and complain about the NBA draft. But it really is ridiculous. It is the dumbest exercise to sit there and try to understand where guys are going. And I hate it as much because there's players that don't get their moment. Like, if you're watching later in that draft and Kendall Brown gets drafted, and so I'm sitting there and I'm waiting for whatever team actually picked him, which I'm trying to figure out because the announcers don't even know, right away. I'm trying to just like, whose account do I need to look at to know where he got drafted and then to just hit retweet on it? And you have to wait 25 minutes for the team itself that did draft him, if not longer, for them to get the okay to then say, like, I don't even know if what team did he end up on? He ended up on
Pacers.
The Pacers, yeah. I don't even know if the Pacers even put out anything last night.
I contacted them, both 2 or 3 of their media relations guys, and I haven't even been told we can't discuss it yet or not.
Yeah, like it's the night of the draft. You just picked him, but we can't say anything, and we can't introduce him, and we can't put out a logo because the trades have to go through. And I could understand if it was like a couple of them a year, but when basically the entire draft is trades. I mean, it really is. It's like every other pick's a trade, and it's involving multiple teams, and then you have to go through the T's and crossing T's and dotting I's and all that with the NBA office to make it official. I think that sucks, man. I think it sucks that the team can't just say, hey, boom, Indiana, boom, here's Kendall Brown, here's who we drafted.
Kendall Brown drafted number 48 overall in a trade with Minnesota, the Indiana Pacers select Kendall Brown.
But it's like by the time they do that, it's 30 minutes after the fact. They're already 5 picks ahead of time. Nobody knows where anybody's going. And most people at that point are already just checked out and over it. It's because it's like
they've already had somebody
it's
else
like, what's the point? So I think that's so silly. I think it was John McClain or somebody explained it one time about how they have to have the clearance of the trades. But I just think, like, how do they watch that product and go, this really is the best way to do our draft, is just to have no idea where anybody's going half the time, or even be able to announce them because, at the time, because we have to go through the office. I just think that's silly.
I agree. I'm interviewing you. You got drafted by the Timberwolves, and it's already been reported during the interview with you that you're going to perhaps Orlando.
Yeah, I'm happy to play in Minnesota, Houston, Orlando, Indiana, wherever I'm going to be.
Right.
And it's confusing, and the reason for it is arcane. It's just the NBA going, well, the rules of the thing. Shut up. Like, just stop it.
Well,
simplify it.
And you wonder if the cap and all the stuff they have to do, the matching salaries, if they have to still got to go through that compliance or so.
I guess, but they could just do it and know, like, who's going to oversee it and go, well, this is wrong. The lasting image of the NBA draft that I'll always have that is the highlight of this, and this has been 25 years ago, is Kobe Bryant wearing Hornets gear.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's the league rules don't start for another few weeks, and so that's what their excuse is. But I just think that's such a stupid excuse. Like, it's one of your big nights. It's your biggest night outside of the season, and nobody knows what the hell's going on.
Even one of the broadcasters who does a great job last night was confused on where somebody went, whether it's the Knicks or somebody else. Ochai Agbaji was drafted by Cleveland, 14th overall pick. Christian Brown by Kansas. Denver picked him at number 21, and 4 players for the Big 12 drafted. Bill Clark of UAB. We got a couple of things here that Mitch Thompson is going to join us. Bill Clark of UAB is going to have to retire because of chronic back problems. You want to go back to the NBA draft?
Yeah, I do. Baylor with a WNBA, NBA, and NFL picks this year. You look at some other schools, they got shut out entirely of both the NFL and NBA draft. And that's interesting to look at, especially, given how much trash talking there is at times from certain schools to get blanked in the 2 biggest drafts. And some of that can be the youth of your program or whatever, but for Baylor to have, 6 guys drafted in the NFL draft, to have 2 guys last night, I think that's pretty dang good. And then to have a couple in the WNBA draft, which I know some people might not put right up there with the other 2, but still, those are the main 3 sports, and they got, at least 2 people drafted in every single one of them, and some got blanked out of 2 out of the 3, or one of the 3. So I think that's impressive and something to definitely, make note of if you're Baylor.
It could be something you're young, or it also could be why you're not very good.
Or you're not developing.